In this lecture, we will focus mostly on solving problems. So, let us start with the problem set. Now, in yesterday's class, we discussed the first problem, which was a problem of finding moment of inertia about an axis which is perpendicular to the plane of this plane of the object and perpendicular to the going through center of mass. Now, this one we did, we did not solve it exactly, but I gave you enough hint. I guess you can solve it yourself. That will be a good practice for you as well. Now, the next problem is find the moment of inertia of a thin uniform rod about an axis making an angle theta with the rod and passing through center of mass. This one is also an easy problem. In order to solve this, so the situation is this. Let us say this is the axis, which is like this, and let us assume that this is the rod in question. So, according to the problem, passing through center of mass. Now, if it is an uniform rod, the center of mass by the symmetry of it will be the midpoint. So, that means if L is the length of the rod, then at each side we have L by 2 and this side we have L by 2, and the angle, this angle is theta, right. So, we have to find out the moment of inertia for this particular tilt angle theta. Now, recall, so let me draw it again just for better clarity, because I have marked so many things on it. So, this is my axis n capped, this is the rod in question, right. This angle is theta. Similarly, this angle is also theta. Now, so let us assume, let us take this as origin. So, we have if I draw an axis here, so my x axis will be like this and y axis will be passing through this axis of rotation, right. Now, for any point, let us say any random point at a distance r, right, what we need to find is this distance d. Now, this distance we know that it will be d equal to, so from the symmetry of the problem, it is d by r is equal to sin theta, which gives d equal to r sin theta. This is also a familiar expression. So, this is essentially mod of r cross n capped that we have seen earlier. So, moment of inertia according to the standard formula is mi di square, which in integral notation is lambda dl. Okay, so this will be dm d square, which will be dm, we can write lambda dl, lambda being the length of this lambda being the mass per unit length for this rod. So, the total mass m can be written as lambda l, right. So, lambda is equal to m by l. So, lambda dl and d, or we can take a length element as dr, for example, not dl, then we have r sin theta. Okay. So, sin theta is a constant here. So, the integration limit is minus L by 2 to L by 2. So, it will be an integration minus L by 2 to L by 2 r dr. Okay. So, which will give you an I, which will be half lambda sin theta, and integrating this, there is a constant here, it will be r square by 2. So, we have taken this half here, minus L by 2 to L by 2. Now, if you put this limit, it will be, sorry, I think I have made a mistake, because this actually vanishes. Okay, so let me check. oh sorry, it is r squared sine squared theta. So d is r sine theta, yeah, that makes sense. So r square, this is sine squared theta, so it will be r cubed by 3, yeah, it has to be this, otherwise, okay. So 3 sine squared theta, and this will be 2l cubed by 8. So finally I, this will be 4, I will be 1 by 12. Now if I can substitute lambda equal to m by l, l cubed by, yeah, so we have already taken this 4 into account, which will be I equal to square half m l square. Also there is a sine square theta here, sine square theta. So this is the final answer. Now what happens if we change theta? If we put theta equal to 90 degree, we simply have half m l square, which is a well known result for so if the rod is like this and the axis is perpendicular to the rod like this, then we have half ml square. And if I put theta equal to 0 degree, that means if the rod is along the axis, then of course it's an one dimensional object. Around its own axis, the moment of inertia vanishes. So the answer is this, half ml square sine square theta. Right. Now let's move to the next problem, problem 3. Now this problem, in the problem set, it's a very conceptual problem. It's not much of calculation involved here, but we have to understand what we are doing. Okay. So we have, what is there? We have two symmetric matrices. One is I1, which is some numbers. Of course, only the 6 matrix elements are given, and these 3 will be identical to these 3. Similarly, here some numbers are given. The first matrix looks nice and tidy. It has very nice numbers, very easily understandable numbers. The second matrix is bit ugly, but also it has some ugly because it has some numbers which are bit long and all, but it's also a matrix. Both of them are real symmetric matrices. Okay, symmetric we can see because only one half is given, and real matrices because all the elements are real. Now which one represents a physical moment of inertia tensor? That is the question. One of these is a physical moment of inertia, represents a physical moment of inertia tensor. The second one, the other one does not. To understand this, we have to realize that we have to go through the properties of, not only the properties of moment of inertia tensor. We know that moment of inertia is a real symmetric tensor, that is both of them satisfy this. So we have to go beyond the properties and look more, we have to basically try to see which one represents a physical system and which one does not represent. Now let's look into these matrices carefully. We have I1. So let's focus on I1 first. We have 1, 2, 1, 0, 2, 1. And of course we have I2, which I am not writing the explicit form, but just write, let's say 1.9, 0.03, minus 0.4, let's say. I mean, it does not matter really because these numbers can be approximated. Minus 0.8, 1.6, and it is the repetition. This half will be the repetition of this half. Similarly, this part will be the repetition of this part. Now 1, and if we recall, in a moment of inertia tensor, we have this diagonal elements are the moments of inertia and off diagonal elements are the products of inertia, and the general form is Ij is equal to sum over k mk rk square delta ij minus rk I rk j, right. So this is the general form. So we have seen that moment of inertias are inherently positive numbers. moment of inertia are the diagonal elements, and products of inertia are off diagonal elements, which could be negative as well, because the product of inertia, this term will vanish uniformly, and then we will have a minus in the integration form. For our expression of product of inertia will be minus rho dv, let us say Ixy will be minus rho dv xy, integration over the entire volume in question. Now, you can ask, the first one does not have any negative numbers in the product of inertia tensor, and second one has some negative number. Is that the reason? Okay. So, product of inertia, in principle we have a negative sign in the integration, does not necessarily mean that all the products of inertia will be negative. Let us take an example. Let us say we have one axis system x, y and z. So, we have in the negative direction also negative x, negative y and negative z. Now, let us say we have a mass distribution in this particular axis system which spreads along negative of y and positive of z. So, let us say we have a rectangular sheet standing like this. Okay. So, now if I calculate the product of inertia Ixz, Iyz, negative of Yiz. So, Iyz, which will be minus rho. So, it is actually dm yz, right. So, dm in this case will be sigma dv. Sigma is the, let us say, density of them in the surface density of this sheet, sigma. Okay. So, we have minus sigma dv, not dv, ds. So, total mass m will be equal to sigma times s, the total area, right, or sigma times a if you do not like s. Okay. So, we have dA yz. Now, look at this mass distribution. It is spread over negative of y axis and positive of z axis. So, this integration is over the entire surface, okay, entire area of this disc. This integration will always give you positive value, because one of these two quantities y and z is always negative and the other one is always positive. So, resultant Iyz will be greater than 0 or could be equal to 0 also. In this case, actually it will not be equal to 0. So, it will be greater than 0, right. So, that is why not having a negative value in the product of inertia does not make a tensor invalid. So, that is also not the line of thinking. So, we have three properties. One is, or rather we have two properties. One is real, both of them are real. Second is symmetric, which both of them are symmetric, and third one is we should have negative values in the product of, we can have negative values in the product of inertia term, which I have proved that the integration has a negative side does not mean that it will have negative values. Now, what will tell us whether this one is a proper inertia tensor or this one is a proper inertia tensor or both? Now, let us look into this carefully. So, we have Ixx equal to 1, Izz equal to 1 and Iyy equal to 0. Now, there comes the hint. Now, if Iyy equal to 0, what we have seen here? If we put in this example, for example, this is a one dimensional system, okay, a rod. If we put theta equal to 0, that means the orientation of the rod is along the axis of rotation. Because it is a one dimensional object, then we immediately see that the moment of inertia vanishes. So, in this case, if I extend this picture a bit or if I slightly modify this picture, let us say I have my y axis, x axis and z axis. Okay. So, this is my y, this is my z, this is my x, and the rod in question, the one dimensional rod in question is lying along y axis. Then what will happen? If this happens, then your moment of inertia around y will be equal to 0, right, and that will give you equal values of moment of inertia around z and around x, because it is a one dimensional mass distribution perpendicular to both the axes, the origin is passing through center of mass. So, in this case we will have Iy, okay, so we are doing it for this problem, but anyway Iyy equal to 0, Izz equal to Ixx equal to some number, whatever, okay. So, we can have equal numbers in this, but if so, that means we are in this particular matrix, it describes a moment of inertia tensor which is a one dimensional mass distribution around around y, okay. Now, if this happens, can we have products of inertia all non-zero? Of course not. The product of inertia which includes, so that you see the mass distribution is only along y, right. So, whenever we have a product of inertia which is along x or along z, this must vanish, it has to vanish. So, all the products of inertia terms, sum of the product of inertia term has to be equal to 0, think of it. So, this one cannot represent a physical moment of inertia tensor, because if we have a diagonal term 0, then we must have sum of the off diagonal terms 0. Which ones? I am just leaving on to you. Think of it. Sum of the terms has to be equal to 0. This one is free from this problem. We have non-zero diagonal terms, non-zero off diagonal terms. We have some negative, some positive. This can happen. I have just shown you that negative integration can give you positive numbers, given that the mass distribution is in the negative direction. So, this is okay and this is not. So, I2 is the physical moment of inertia tensor, I1 is not a physical moment of inertia tensor. So, this problem is a very conceptual problem, in a sense there is not much of calculation involved except for that understanding part. We have to understand what the moment of inertia, that this tensor, these numbers are actually trying to tell us, okay. So, this is why I included this into your problem set. I hope you understood and you enjoyed solving this problem with me. Okay. Now, let us move on to problem number 4 and 5. Actually, 4 and 5 are very much related with each other. So, let us look at 4 quickly. Find the moment of inertia of a circular lamella of radius r and mass m about an axis passing through its center and perpendicular to the plane of the wheel. You can use this result for the next problem. Okay, so problem number 4 is very simple. You must have already done it a million times in your +2 standard itself. Okay, so let us say this is my axis of rotation and this is my lamella which is lying in the xy plane, and the circular lamella has a radius r and mass m, and we all know that moment of inertia around this axis will be half m r square. Okay. So, I think we are all very familiar with this result. So, I am not doing it for you. What I can suggest is you can try one thing. You can try to calculate the, so Iz actually. So, you see that by the symmetry of the problem we discussed. So, this problem has a cylindrical symmetry. So, Ixx will be equal to Iyy, which will not be equal to Izz. But from parallel axis theorem we know that Izz, or sorry, perpendicular axis theorem we know that Izz equal to Ixx plus Iyy, because it is a 2D mass distribution. So, what I suggest is you calculate Ixx and Iyy, I mean one of the Ixx and Iyy, and see if you get Ixx equal to Iyy equal to 1/4 mr square. Okay. So, of course, you will get it, it has to be, because these two combining should give you half mr square and they are contributing equally. So, both of them should be equal to 1/4 mr square. So, that is just a side thing, probably you are all familiar with it already because this is such a common problem. But let us focus on the next problem, which is what we target actually. The problem is a fly of mass m, small m, rests on a horizontal disk that is freely pivoted about the vertical axis through its center. Initially, the disk is stationary when the fly starts to walk around the circumference with speed v prime relative to the disk. If r and m are the capital R and capital M are the radius and mass of the bigger disk, okay, then we have to show that the speed of fly with respect to a stationary observer is v is equal to m v prime divided by 2m plus v. First, let us try to understand this problem. So, this is the disk in question. We have a fly sitting here very close to the edge. So, it starts walking. Now, if I draw the top view of the problem. So, this is my disk in question. I hope you can see this. Yes, you can. This is my disk in question, which is pivoted at the center. So, the axis of rotation is just perpendicular to the plane. Okay. So, it is up here as I have drawn. So, we have our fly in question is here. So, at t equal to 0, it starts walk around the rim with a speed v prime, which is measured with respect to this disk, right. And as you see, what happens, because it is a frictionless pivot, what happens moment this fly starts walking in the, let us say, clockwise direction, this disk starts rotating in the anti-clockwise direction, giving rise to a rotational velocity omega. Now, if this happens, this becomes a non-inertial frame of reference. So, what is given here is the speed of the fly with respect to the disk, which is a non-inertial frame of reference, and what we need to find out is the speed v, which is measured from outside, that is an inertial frame of reference. Writing it in vector notation, recall this r being the radial vector which directed outwards, right. You recall this? This is the standard expression of velocity when observed from an inertial frame. V is the velocity of an inertial frame observed from an inertial frame, which is the stationary frame. V prime is the velocity measured in the rotating frame, this one, and omega cross r is what we need to find out. So, our job is to find out an expression for omega cross r. Now, do one more step. Now, let us see. Let us assume that the fly is moving in the clockwise direction. So, the disk starts rotating in the anti-clockwise direction. Anti-clockwise rotation is positive. I think we have discussed it in the initial part of our lecture, that anti-clockwise rotation is positive. That means the direction, let us say, if this is how the fly is moving, then the disk is rotating in this direction anti-clockwise. That means it is giving rise to an omega, which is equal to omega n cap, upward direction. Okay. So, it is the omega is playing omega is pointing upwards, right. So, we have this. Now, you take a cross product of that omega, which is pointing out of the surface of this paper, with r, and you will see that omega cross r is, so at any point instantaneous position, I mean the velocity v prime is tangential to the instantaneous position of this position vector r, sorry, position of this fly. That means v prime is perpendicular to r, and you will see that omega cross r will always be in the opposite direction. Okay. So, if I now bring it down to scalar, so v will be v prime minus omega r, and as omega and r they are perpendicular to each other, omega cross r will be simply minus omega r. Okay. Try thinking of it in this way. Let us assume that fly is moving in anti-clockwise direction. That means the disk is rotating in clockwise direction. That means omega will be pointing downwards in that case. Once again you calculate omega cross r, you will see that if the fly's movement is in this direction, then omega cross r is in this direction. So whatever you do, you will get V equal to V prime minus omega cross r. This is the scalar equation, right? So this is one thing. Still we have to figure out what is omega. Now thankfully we have the conservation of angular momentum. Now according to the conservation of angular momentum, the total angular momentum of the disk, rotating disk, total angular momentum of the rotating disk will be I omega, okay, which by conservation of angular momentum has to be equal to the angular momentum of the fly, which is moving with a velocity v prime with respect to this frame, okay, or rather which is moving with a velocity v with respect to a rest frame. And all the conservation laws, I am pressing it again, all the conservation laws are valid only in rest frame. So if we see from rest frame, only then I can write I omega is equal to r cross mv, right, and this will be, and this will once again give you r m v, right. So omega is equal to r m v by I, right. Now put it into this scalar equation and simplifying, r m v by I is equal to half m r square. So it will be 2 capital M r square, right, which will on simplification this will cancel out 2 m v by m. So you put it back in here, v will be equal to, okay, I'll just write in the next page maybe. So v will be equal to v prime minus, v prime minus 2 m v r by capital M, or you change sides, v prime will be equal to v times 2 m plus I think r, sorry, there is a omega r, so right, so it will be, sorry, there is a small mistake here, sorry, this will be r, which will give you omega r is equal to 2 m v by m, right. So it will be 2 m plus m divided by m. So you get v is equal to m v prime by 2m plus m. So this is the result we are looking for. Okay. So I hope this is clear to you all, that how to solve this problem, how we did solve this problem. I will just repeat it once again. What we did was we initially wrote the equation. So the velocity v, which we need to find out, is the velocity is as seen from the rest frame, right. So we wrote this equation which gave us this. Then we wrote the angular momentum conservation in rest frame, which gave us a relation with or expression of omega in terms of known parameters. Put it in here, simplifying, you get this, right. So there are other there are 2 more problems in the problem set, which we will take up in the next class. And what we will do is, next class we will once again go back to the theory of moments of inertia. We will define something called ellipsoid of inertia. We will try to understand what it is, then solve some problems and move on to Euler's equation. Thank you.